Seems like it'd be bin. Seems to be working. I don't have a go button. I don't like that. It seems like a bad sign. I mean, I don't care about the button, but it seems like a bad sign. I hate shit. Let's go a bit like Rust. I'm not familiar with Rust. It's very possible. And this is all Windows complaints. I really should have set it up. I installed Golang or the IDE, and then I practiced this on my laptop, and I'm like, it'll be fine. The main file as a non-main package does not contain main function. No, oh, I know this one. I know this one. It was a Go thing. Hey, we're in business. 6 minutes in. All right, let's do this. Let's go home with to walk through in TypeScript. That'd be fun someday. Wouldn't mind that. Yeah, Windows is never fine. Windows's job is to make our jobs more difficult as developers. But that one was my fault. But I'll still complain because. Why would it? You know what? Maybe I won't complain because I guess it assumes I'm writing a library. It doesn't assume I'm writing a program, which is something. Like, that's a thing. All right, so let's start doing this. So I'll do a little bit in this file here before I jump into the server stuff. And we'll just learn a little bit about Go syntax. So we got hello world here. Let's spruce this up a little bit. Let's go. So we need a package. The one thing I just forgot, we need a package named main. If we're going to have a main method, it has to be named main. There's no getting around that. As we just found out, as I just relearned. And then we need a function named main. I believe this technically takes arguments. I can have my argv type int and argc of type array of, is it lowercase or uppercase? That's lowercase. String. I believe we can have these because they do exist. Function main must have no arguments and no return value. Maybe we just have them in existence. I swear I saw this, so I just want to play around a little bit. Part of today, I'm just gonna mess around a little bit because you do have access to the command line parameters. In one tutorial I saw did have them in the main method, but you know, it is what it is. And we have some built-in methods, the ones you would expect: print line and print. I'm using print line and just printing a string to the screen. A lot of the tutorials I saw, they'll import a format package to do string formatting. I ain't doing no fancy string formatting. I'm just going to use print line like this. Probably because that's a syntax I'm used to in Scala, so why not? So we can print some syntax. Let's write just a simple method, func, because we're too lazy to write function. Why be explicit about things? And let's just write a method that takes the sum of two values, because why not? So if we want to take two parameters, the type comes after the name of the variable, because, and this will be a running theme with this, because Go just had to do things differently. Actually read an article, they're like, here's why we actually put the type after. I wasn't super convinced, but it seemed like a power user reason. Like, there are specific cases that if you're getting really deep into the language, it's more helpful and more readable, which is fine. you know, the language was made for that. If you're not getting deep into the features, you're probably just using C and fine with that. So whatever, I'm okay with that. But the type comes after the variable name with no colon. So if it was the type after with a colon, fine, a lot of languages do that. If it's the type before, fine, a lot of languages do that, including C, which is just modeled, kind of modeled after modeled to kill. But Go said, no, we're not choosing either of those. And then the return type. For types, there's int and a lot of variations of int. There's float, and if you use a float, you have to specify how many bits, either 32 or 64. So I'll use float 32s, I guess. I guess I can use 64s and have them be regular doubles. And then Golang isn't smart enough to automatically close my... Oh, am I on the big screen, by the way? With pyrotechnics and everything? Was the thing unlocked? And let's do this. Let's do this way, so I can declare a variable. Yes. All right. So declare a variable var. I'll name it result. Result. Type. We'll stick with our float 64, and then equals some math, a plus b, and then return result. That wasn't an error, and this is driving me nuts. I went through the settings and I could not figure out how to change this. That wasn't an error. If I comment this out, that's not an error, that's unused variable. Looks like an error, it's underlined like an error, but it's all fine. Like it's just an unused variable. Unused imports, same thing, it looks like an error. It trips me up every time. I'm like, what is wrong with this line? Did I declare a variable wrong? What the fuck? I know how to declare a variable. All right, since I'm not in a classroom, don't mind me if some swear words slip out. I feel I'm in a more casual environment for me, so I gotta censor myself a little bit. So this is how we declare a variable and define a type. Go also has a shorthand for this of colon equals a plus b. Result 2. I can return result 2 if I want. And now I'm going to get my error here because, oh, let me actually just result so I can get rid of that error. Colon equals will also declare variable. If you declare variable colon equals, you can't declare a type. You can't specify the type. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I'm sure there's a really sophisticated reason why you can't. But when you use colon equals, you have to use type inference. So the type has to be inferred from this variable. So if you want to use any super types, you can't use this shorthand. I think the shorthand is more popular, I believe, from what I can tell. People like using the colon equals so they don't have to write var. And also your type is optional with var, but var gives you the option of specifying a type. So if you want to be explicit about your types, you have to use the var, and you can't use this shorthand. For what it's worth, it's you know, it is what it is. Oh, plus I did a test stream last night, and you know, I wasn't a professor during that test stream. That's like the last thing I did in my waking hours, because I'd stare at my laptop studying Go. So I'm still in that mode a little bit. All right, so we got a function. The return type, I believe, is optional, by the way. Maybe not. I thought it was. Maybe I didn't return anything when I did that. And then to call a function, just like you would expect, var thing equals. I'll add my type to be explicit. Or do I have to? This isn't 116. I'm not going to add my type. I'm going to use the shorthand, in fact. In 116, I try to always add my types. Sum of 4 plus 6 print line thing. And if my math is right, we should get 10. And we kinda do. Go. Come on, man. You can't write that as 10. Ay, ay, ay. I don't want to see scientific notation, so I'm turning these to ints. It is, in fact, 10. If you can't read the scientific notation. Oh, my goodness. Like, everything I do, every corner I turn on this language, there's another thing where I'm like, whoever wrote this language is a fucking nerd. Like, why? Oh, we can all read scientific notation. That's, like, normal to us. We're totally humans, right? We can read scientific notation. Like, what kind of robots wrote this language? Googlers is the answer. So, and if we want another file with separate stuff in it, let's call this other stuff. I don't know. And I might be getting the naming convention wrong if files should be capitalized like that. We could name this another package, other package. Multiple package. Oh, right. This needs to be in a separate directory. Other. Yeah, 10 and scientific. Like, if it was any other number, I wouldn't have been so mad. But 10? Like, 10, you're going to force it to be scientific notation? Come on. Alright, so let me create a function. What function? By default, I was going to go to multiplication. Does anybody have a better idea for a function? How's the response rate for the course evals? Let me take a look real quick. And by the time I come back, by the time I look back, you better have an idea for a method. Course evals. It's going to ask me to log in. I get kicked out of this eval site so fast. They don't want you lingering on this site. I got to log in every freaking time. And of course, I'm going to get duoed. It's been 7 days. Tap your phone. We are at 80%. Woo! We made it. We made it. Well, 312 regularly goes past 80. 312 regularly has been going to 90, but I think I usually had incentives at 90. But historically it gets up to 90. Actually, I can just scroll down and look. Last semester, 312, 92. Before that, 91. Is that the right thing? Yeah. Before that, 91. Where's the previous one? I must have not did an incentive the first semester. But regularly above 90. So it was almost guaranteed that we were going to get, historically speaking, that we were going to get the 3 drops. I was counting on the 3 drops. You're going to hard drop homework 4 objective. Hey, it's your option. It's your prerogative. In other class, like, it depends on your incentives. Like, if I have weak incentives, it won't go past 80. If I have no incentives and I'm just like, pretty please fill out the course evals, it'll get to about 30, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. So I learned that I have to bribe students, and dropping homework objectives in 312 is a really strong, like, that really improves some people's grades. So, it improves everybody's grade, because the project is still out there. Even if you think you might have an A locked up, you know, there's still a chance that the project won't go your way. So you're still going to do the course evals for that insurance. Or rather, because homework 4 isn't in. So even if you think you're going to get straight 3s on homework 4, like, it's a strong incentive in 312. I have a tougher time motivating CSE 116 students, because some of them just have A's locked up and they don't care. It's part of the reason. So multiplication, nobody had a method idea, so let's just do the boring thing. Actually, no, let me do, I saw this in a tutorial. And I'm going to intentionally do something wrong right here. I just did something wrong. We're going to see this in a second. Swap strings. I saw this in a tutorial. I thought it was pretty neat. So if I want two strings and I want to, wait, does this even make sense? No, this method would be completely useless, right? But I'm going to make a method of swap strings. It's going to take two strings and it's going to return two strings. We're at 300 level. I can throw two things at you at once, right? We're going to do an external package and multiple return types. So we can have multiple return values and specify the types of them. We add a second list of parenthesized types, and those are going to be the return types. And I can return B, comma A to return them in the reverse order as the parameters. Now I want to call this method from my other thing, so I'm going to have to import. And you can just import other, like this is fine. Oh, I need the full thing. So work this time, that's my module name for my project, so I do need to prepend that on my import. This is another fake error. This is going to be unused import. Unused import. Straight to the point. I like that error message. Unused import. So you can import like that. I think it's braces though. No, parentheses. But it's more common to include it as parentheses. So if you have multiple imports, you would import them all in this import list. And then I get all kinds of fake errors because they're unused. And then down here, it's only the last name, the name of the actual package, not any of the prefix stuff. Other dot swap strings, blah, blah. And it's not going to work. I told you I did this intentionally. I have opinions about this. I suspect you will too. If a method starts with a lowercase letter, you can't use it in any other package. If it starts with a capital letter, which I hate seeing methods that start with capital letters, it drives me nuts because that's not the convention in any other language. If it starts with a capital letter, you can use it in other packages. So any public methods have to start with capital letters, private methods with lowercase letters. And it's just another one of those things that's like hidden. Like if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you're screwed. But that's the way they set it up. God forbid we have a keyword here that says public. That's too much. Nope, methods with capital letters. I hate seeing methods with capital letters. It makes it look like a class. It makes it look like something more than it is. It's just a method. So if I have two strings, string 1, world, string 2, hello with a space, and I want to do string 2, string 2, string 1 equals swap strings, string 1, string 2, print line string 1 plus string 2. I should have those properly swapped to say hello world. So we can swap without world hello string 1, string 2, because the method itself swaps. So string 1, string 2, throw them in the swap and reassign them to themselves, and they got swapped. So this method itself isn't super useful, but what I did just do is swap without a temp variable. So for what it's worth, like there's certain things, like that's what we avoided here is using a temp variable. Usually you need a temp variable to swap. Temp equals string 1, String 1 equals string 2, string 2 equals temp. It's usually how we would swap. So we did swap without that. This specific case, I don't know if I really care about, but it's a proof of concept that it can help us in more complex applications. Yes, when a compiler enforces coding style, I'm quite biased on this one. I really like when the compiler enforces code style when I agree with the style, and I hate it when I disagree with the style. Am I allowed to have those opinions? I don't know if that's super fair, but you know, like Python enforcing indentation, proper indentation, I like that because it makes Python code, it forces your Python code to look aesthetically pleasing to an extent. But when it's wrong, when that's what it is, like capital letters on your function names, if it enforced capital letters on my structs and lowercase letters on all my functions, I wouldn't be as mad. But that bugs me to no end. Like, I'm sure I'll get over it, but let's do conditionals. Let's do conditionals and a few other things so we can just get on with it. If length of, so we can get on to server stuff. If length of, oh, I thought this was the syntax. Come on. It is the syntax. It's just yelling at me because I'm not done with the thing yet. No, it's yelling at me for something else. Oh, because I didn't finish my Boolean expression. I had to throw it off by the thing, by the error that I didn't finish my expression. So if no parentheses around your conditional for an if statement, braces are required. And that will be executed, else, oh my goodness, print line, it's not a very long string. So if we run this, we should hit the conditional. It's a pretty long string. If we delete a few characters here, we'll hit the other one. I mean, y'all know how conditionals work. The difference is no parentheses here. If it run again. If length of string 1 greater than 4, oh my goodness. Why am I not getting my else? Six. Oh, funny. It's funny. Because I swapped them, chat. Alright. Conditionals. For loops. We use our C style for loops. For I int, because the thing comes after, equals 0. Actually, we'll do it like this anyway. I less than 10. I plus plus. No parentheses. Gotta run my formatter. Print line I. Pretty straightforward. And it prints my values. The first and last are optional, so if you want a while loop, I equals 0. So if you want a while loop, you just do for, and the documentation gets cheeky with this. It says in Go, while is spelled F-O-R. While loop is just for. Like, why introduce a new keyword? I ain't complaining about that one. I ain't mad at that. And if you want an infinite loop, you just put 4, and that's it. And we do have breaks and continues. So we want an infinite loop that we break out of. What did I mess up here? For, I mean, it should at least print the first one. What happened there? Oh, it did print. Okay. So, and then I get 10 just the way I did this, set up the endpoints. Because the condition isn't first. So if we run an infinite loop, it's just 4. That's it. Just 4 and then this. So that's our basic syntax. There's tons of other things. I forget the exact syntax for this, but we can have like a statement here. X 2, and I think it was a semicolon, and then that variable exists. Hey, I actually did that right. And that variable exists in all of the blocks of the conditional. And you can use it, well, let me do it this way actually. And you can use it inside the condition itself. So if you want a variable that you're going to use multiple times inside a conditional, actually I kind of like that now that I used it. I saw it in the docs and just remembered how to use it. Then it exists, I print it here and then in here. Then it exists in all of your blocks. So if you want a variable that has scope local to that conditional, the advantage to this is that it doesn't exist here. X doesn't exist here. It's destroyed at the end of the conditional. So if you want that, you can declare it right here and have it available in all your blocks, but not outside the conditional, so you're not muddying up your namespace. I don't know. Maybe that's useful. Maybe that's more useful than I'm thinking. That might be something I use eventually. Start using that. All right. Let's get on with it. Any questions so far, actually? I mean, most of that was, I feel like a lot of that was syntax. And I'm going to dump everything in the main method like I tell everybody not to do. A lot of that was syntax, but if there are syntactical questions. Oh, and I capitalized these and I didn't capitalize these. I'm not even being consistent. I don't know if these should be capital or not, but I'm at least going to be consistent. I'm either right or wrong. I'm not going to be absolutely wrong. All right, and this one I'll probably have to cheat a little. You'll see me looking over at my laptop. This one I won't quite remember off the top of my head. No, actually, with a quick refresher, I think I do, actually. Yeah, actually, I do kind of got this. There's like 3 layers of this, though. Chad, I get nervous when you're quiet. Are you overwhelmed with all the beautiful knowledge being dispensed? So we're going to listen on TCP. You have to specify the protocol and then specify the port. If you would think the port is an integer or a string representing an integer like this, you're wrong. And this took me like half an hour to debug. You need a fucking colon right here. And you need a frickin' colon right here. So once you have this colon, things work. If you don't have that colon, things break. This is going to return 2 values. This is another, I don't know, these are quickly becoming pet peeves with language. Maybe I just need to get used to the language. I shouldn't be so hard on it. Because I know Go is becoming very popular. It is becoming the C killer. This is going to return a listener and an error. Colon equals. So listener and the error. And you have to grab both of them. Like, I'll do stuff with the listener. Let's just print it to get rid of this stupid error of unused. But if I don't want to listen for this error message, that's going to give me an error because it returns 2 things, and I'm only capturing one of them. So I do have to capture the error. And then you can do your error checking. If error not equal nil, I don't know, print line error, and then this beautiful keyword. I'm not mad at this one at all. Panic. Panic on the error. Which is gonna just kill everything. So if there is an actual error, I want to not handle it, but I'm just gonna complain. Panic. Ah, there's an error. Variable error collides with. Oh yeah. I'm gonna name these the student way, like I see in the homework all the time. Just call it error 1, which is not necessarily wrong with that. Listener. Now that I have a listener, this is my server, and I'm going to accept connections. Actually, let me call this my server, because that's more accurate to what it is. So I'm going to listen on port 8000 for TCP connections, and I'm going to call accept. Accept is going to hang until there's a connection coming in, and then it's going to return the connection and error 2. And this is one of my pet peeves, though. I got to do my own error handling. The error code gets gross. It reminds me of JavaScript and getting stuck in callback hell, where every callback has an error and you have to check if it's defined or not. If it's undefined, you move on with your life. If it is not undefined, you panic. You crash. You handle the error if you want to. And it reminds me of that. If all I'm doing with the error, this should be the default. If all I'm doing with the error is crashing, just let it crash. Just let it crash, man. And I can just delete these and get these fake errors, but then the unused variable errors start driving me nuts. So I don't like seeing any red lines, and I haven't found a way to turn that off in the settings. Sometimes I want a variable that I just don't. Oh, actually I do. No, I do remember this. I'll leave this one as an example. Actually, I do remember this. If you do underscore, that says, look, I know there's a variable there. I'm not using it. Don't complain. So I'll start doing that. I forgot I could do that. Panic is a way of life. It absolutely is. So, all right, our connection. Let's get to I want to at least serve hello world as text. So connection. It's not read. Alright, I gotta cheat. Handle. Oh, that's my method. Okay. Okay. So I have access to the remote address. So I'll just print that to the screen to say, hey, somebody connected to me. How could you possibly be mad at that one? Oh. Can I just comma that? And then that'll call it toString. I can also call string on this, just to be sure. That should work, calling string on it. It didn't like my type mismatch. So either one of those would work. I'll do it this way, because whatever. And then I want to handle the message. So I can say connection.read, which is going to give me my bytes. And I have to give it the byte array. Is that really how I did this? Oh, okay. I see why I had to do that stuff. Good thing I got my cheat sheet here, because I never would have remembered that one, even when I glanced over it. So read, this is like the C style stuff, you probably know this from 220. Read takes an array of bytes and populates that array of bytes with the data that is read. So you give an array of 80, size 80, an array of bytes of size 80, it'll populate it with up to 80 values, 80 bytes from the stream, and then as a side effect, and then you work with that data. And then you call it again if you're buffering and stuff like that. If we don't want to do any of that, because who wants to do any of that, we'll create a buffer to be able to do that stuff for us. We'll create a reader on the connection. Which is going to make it easier to read off of this buffer. So now reader.read, excuse me, reader.read byte is going to return my bytes. Now this is going to give me my data. I'll print that data out as a string. A buffer array does, an array of bytes doesn't have a toString, so I gotta do it this way. This is probably complaining about my error. It's a weird thing to say, complaining about my error. That's a compiler level thing. That's why I can't get rid of those errors from my IDE. That's actually a compiler thing. Var x equals 0. No, it did go. The compiler's just... It is giving me an error though. Is it because I don't use that code? Wow. Wow, fuck you, Go. Like, it's one of those things where you can't really be mad, because, like, what's the argument? Hey, Google, I want to declare variables and just never use them because I like wasting memory. Like, we don't have a good argument, but it's so pretentious of them to be like, no, you're not doing that. Like, you're just not allowed to. The compiler can clearly detect that. If the compiler can detect that, just ignore that code while compiling. Why was that not the choice that was made? You know I don't use that, so just don't add it into the compiled code. Just ignore it. Like, wow, that is pretentious. I was looking through my IDE settings trying to disable that. It's not going to let me because it's a legit compiler error. Thanks for pointing that out, Dragonite Fan, by the way. I wasn't aware of that. That's wild. That's pretentious. It solidifies my opinion of Googlers, I'll say that much. They think they're too smart for their own good over there. They're too pretentious. They think they're the smartest people in the world, and I hate to say it, but they're probably right. But they're too smart for their own good. Yeah. C++ has been doing that for decades. Yeah, right. Has it really? Not compiling on... I mean, to be fair, I don't like C++ either. But has it really been doing that? It won't compile if you have an unused variable. That's crazy. Alright, so we're printing out our data, and then we're going to do connection dot write. What's the syntax for this one? Let me just write my string first. HTTP 1.1 200 OK /r/n content type. Let's going to be text slash plain slash r slash n content length. And obviously I'm just hard coding this because we only got 5 minutes left. I just want to get something working in the browser. Content length, hello world should be 11 slash r slash n slash r slash n. Hello world. Let's get excited about it. Up it by a character. These are bytes, so do I have 2 bytes? I think I do byte. I think this is our syntax for this. Again, just to be different, when you're declaring an array, the brackets come before the type. So not byte array, like I read this as byte array. Byte array. But Go says array byte. A byte, an array of type byte maybe is how they read it. How they reconcile that, I don't know. This is complaining a little bit. Unhandled error. Equals. Let's do underscore underscore. No new variables on the left side. Makes sense. And stop complaining about that. I don't care about the returns in this example. Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I do not remember C++ doing that. No, C++ does the thing that I'm saying Go should do. Yeah, good. Good for them. And let's run this thing. Those were fake errors, right? Okay, no, that makes sense. I'm not mad at that error. New file. Oops. New directory. Server. 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 Two things, capital letter, or else it won't do things. Server.do things. I had 2 main methods in the same package, is why I was mad. Yes, Windows, I want to use the code that I wrote. Heyo. And we got a server. Connection from oh goddamn. So when I'm printing out the data that's read, reader dot new scanner. I don't have time to know what the difference between a reader and a scanner is. Bytes. Not really reading the request. But let me, there's one more, there's a stopping point I want to get to. Function handle, connection, six two thing, no, just connection. connection of type net dot con. So all this stuff, we wouldn't do it here. We'll do it here. We want to continue to accept connections because our server there would only handle one connection. And then call handle of the connection. So do all this in a separate method. And here's the power of Go. This is where I got nothing but good things to say about Go. Is if you want concurrency, which we do, we need concurrency in our web server, you just do Go. Now that method runs concurrently, and we can go back to grab another connection. 3 characters. One of them was a space even. So this is called a Go routine. So it's going to call this as a Go routine instead of a regular method call. So it's not just the frame on the stack and everything. It handles it concurrently, and it's shared memory, so it's event-based concurrency, not thread-based or fork-based, if anybody does that. So now we have concurrency in our code. That simple. Just Go, and then that runs concurrently. All right, and that's the end of lecture. So I know y'all gotta get to other classes. I'll hang out on stream for a little bit. I'll fire up the Zoom meeting too for office hours. But that's what I wanted to get for the demo. We got to a concurrent web server, HTTP server, in 50 minutes. That was a pretty good Go tutorial, if I say so. We got through the basic syntax and got ourselves an concurrent HTTP server. Happy about that. We didn't read the bytes properly. That's what I'll mess with right now. I did the same thing over here. Why didn't that work? But that's the official end of lecture. So if nobody feels guilty if they leave right now. So we got the connection. I'm getting something here. I haven't tried the debugger in this yet. And yeah, allow access. Yeah, the wordplay. Yeah, a Go routine instead of code routine. Yeah, they're cute. They're a little too cute. Like going through their documentation. Like, when I'm sure y'all can relate to this one. When you're working on something, because I've probably done this to you, to be honest. When you're working on something, it's really frustrating, really difficult to do. And then, like, in the documentation or in the homework handouts, like, they're getting a little too cute with it. Like, cracking jokes. Like, this ain't funny, man. I'm trying to figure out something. I'm getting imposter syndrome. My brain's destroyed. I'm exhausted. I just want to go to bed. And you're like, Go routine instead of co-routine. Oh, man. It hits the wrong way sometimes. And I'm sure I've done that to some of you, especially in 116. Some of my homeworks are a little too cute at times. When we're doing real world applications, I'm like, oh, isn't that cool? The AI are moving around. Like, bitch, my AI don't move around. What am I supposed to do? So it's a little too cute at times for my taste, but but it is. I don't know. Overall, the language it's definitely needed because C sucks. So my data is nil. Why is my data nil? What does bytes return? Returns a byte array. Okay, that's good. Maybe I need